Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Spot On Chess. We're going to take a look at a couple of games from the U.S. Chess Championship. Over here, you'll see one game playing in the background, and that is Rena Crush's loss with the black pieces to Anna Saragrayan, and interesting game. We also have the game played between Fabiano Caruana and Andy Woodward, which was a rather surprising little contest. Anyways, I hope you enjoy the games. You may notice that down below there's a ticker talking about the Gold Beach Chess Club, which is relevant if you live in Oregon or if you visit. So if you ever visit on a Saturday and you're looking to play some USCF rated chess games or just casual non-rated games, you can come on down to First Chapter Coffee House between the hours of 10 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. We're always looking to invite people on in and be inclusive and have a good time playing chess. Anyways, we hope to see you soon. Let's take a look at these games now. Here we go. Here is the main game for Spot On Chess today. It features the white player making his first move here, which would be, of course, Fabiano Caruana with the white pieces playing c4. We got an English, but not in English, 4 knights, which is what I used to play when I played the English. And then g2, g3 after you have your knight on f3. This kind of opening setup that is elected for by by Fabiano, because he's playing the white pieces against young Grandmaster Andy Woodward, is like Swiss cheese. Like these light squares look a little odd, but computers have said this is playable. I much prefer the black setup here with good development. However, this last move here has allowed white to capture on b7. Now, what we have to look at here is that's a gambit, and black has better development, and there's a white king stuck in the board. So how do you take advantage of that? Well, you sack the knight. You get in there, you threaten a fork on c2, the knight gets captured, and now there's another open line to this white king, the e file. Got a rook on that, and someone's going to be getting kicked around. And so the queen retreats back to f3. If you were to play queen takes that rook on a8, queen e7 check would be a little bit embarrassing. You'd be losing your queen for the 2 rooks, but still, you got some problems there. All right, here we have queen comes back to f3, and now a 4th queen move, queen d3, and the piece is regained. And we have a mass of pawns over here on the queen side. The open e file is a problem. The knight reroutes. Knight comes over to f3 to help try and defend e5. And the knight is exchanged, and the black rook is on e5. The bishop goes to f4, and this is an interesting moment in the game. Right here, the rook gets to the 7th. Pigs on the 7th are powerful, but Fabiano decides to give up his queen for the rook and the bishop. Really interesting. The bishop goes to c6 to help control e8 and try and limit black's options. Now, some of the compensation here that Fabiano has is he has the bishop here. And he has 2 rooks versus that queen. He does have a pawn as well. So for rook and bishop and pawn, that's about the same value as a queen, right? So right here, he's keeping things on the king side intact. Now this move might threaten g7, g5, and so Fabiano decides to exchange off the bishops. The mobility of the queen suggests that she can fly to either side of the board with ease, and so she does. She comes over to the queen side to attack weaknesses. The pawn has been regained. Thing we would point out is that a6, this pawn gets captured by the white pawn on b5, a5 by Mr. Woodward, and the pawn would be captured en passant. So this pawn cannot become a passed pawn based upon what we're seeing here. All right, and then right here, Woodward gets off a pair of the rooks. So now it's the bishop and the rook versus the queen. And Fabiano is doing his best to target weaknesses in the black position, but they're defended. And there goes that a pawn. Now, this is an interesting moment in the game here, too. It looks like black is going to give up the pawns on the king side to get the pawns on the queen side rolling. The black king may be coming over to the queen side to help assist with that operation. The pawn on f4 is giving itself up to try and bust up the defenses around the white king, thus giving the queen more power over that sector of the board. There are more open lines, and she can use them. Here, Fabiano decides to bypass that generous offer of the pawn and create a passed pawn, because once these pawns are exchanged, he now has an h-pawn that he's going to try and throw up the board. And here, he has to protect his pawn, Fabiano does, and Mr. Woodward prevents a bishop from getting on to this h7 to b1 diagonal, and that way the bishop can't help push the pawn up to h7, and then have a rook come over and go to g8 and promote the pawn. Interestingly enough here, this pawn would have to promote on h8, which is not the right color square as far as this bishop is concerned. That might play a role later on. Check. Threatening the f2 pawn, captures and moves, evades. And right here, give yourself a moment, take a look at the position, decide what you might play in this position. What would you play if you're young Grandmaster Andy Woodward and you were trying to, hold your own against one of the world's best, Fabiano Caruana, a gentleman who played for the World Championship match in 2018. We'll assume that you've stopped it and you've had plenty of time to digest this position by just giving up the queen for the rook. Because this bishop, again, cannot help this pawn promote. This king only has to just step in front of this pawn and stay on h8, and the game will be a draw by stalemate, or white gives up the pawn. But as we see, there's an interesting stalemate here where Fabiano pushes his bishop over to e4, or pardon me, d5, e4, f3, right there, and controls this square here, g8, and this pawn controls g7, and this king controls g7, h7. Only one safe square for the black king, and he's on it. Can't move to any of the squares around him, no liberties, and this pawn's blocked, so it can't move either. Stalemate. Thanks for watching, and as always, play the best moves in the game of life.